Hi, everybody. Ian Bremmer here, and a quick take to kick off your week. Alaska. Alaskans will soon be able to see Putin from their houses. How is that? It's because he's about to go there to meet with President Trump. It's the first time that the Russian president has met with an American leader directly since before the Russian invasion of Ukraine back in 2022. It's a big deal. And everyone, of course, is predictably talking about it. The Europeans are privately kind of upset because it wasn't being coordinated with them. But, of course, publicly they're saying we're really glad that Trump is doing this and to advance peace. And we hope it's going to be in the right direction. Lots of things to discuss here. First of all, Putin is going to the United States, and this is symbolically deferential to Trump, which is showing Trump that he's respecting him, and Trump, of course, has a character which is vulnerable to being exploited in that kind of deference and showing of praise and obsequiousness, and I think that will be on firm display. I think no matter what Putin actually offers, he will be shown to offer what a tremendous man Trump is in the service of peace and how he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize and all of those things. And just as you saw the Pakistanis and the Israelis saying that Trump deserved a Nobel, I think that Putin will absolutely say that. I'm not so sure he'll say it about Armenia, Azerbaijan, where Trump has actually moved the ball in favor of peace, but not in a way that actually helps the Russians, actually helps the Americans have more influence in a part of the world that historically has been very much Russian. But whether or not he says that, he'll certainly say it more broadly, express that appreciation, and try to make it harder for Trump to say this is a bad man, a war criminal who's just stringing him along. Now, keep in mind, Trump has been saying that he wanted to do a deal with Putin for a long time now. And I think it's been a mistake for Putin to embarrass Trump publicly, to make it clear that he had no interest and was instead going to continue to bomb civilians in Ukraine right after having, friendly conversations with Trump. The last couple direct conversations that Trump has had with Putin on the phone have been basically pretty cold. They've been focused on Trump's talking points. He hasn't actually gone off script, which is quite unusual for the meetings and conversations that Trump and Putin have had historically. And that was a chance for Putin to get American sanctions taken off and get the U.S. in a very different place from Europe at the cost of a ceasefire, which Putin was unwilling to do. Now, I still think he's unwilling to do a ceasefire, and I think that because Putin thinks he's winning. To a degree, he's right. Certainly the momentum is now in his favor. He's having a much easier time raising additional fighting forces, mostly his own, some from North Korea, having an easier time producing lots and lots of drones and ammunition and artillery with his own war machine, and with some support directly from Iran, even some from China. And he thinks, and I think correctly, that if he keeps fighting over the next year, 18 months, 24 months, that his ability to take massive casualties and keep going and take more land is a lot greater than Ukraine's ability to keep defending the front lines. So that's why he's not particularly willing to take this on. And he also thinks that he can outlast the Americans and the Europeans, and that maybe he can drive a wedge inside NATO, which would be good for Putin, certainly. And what Putin really needs to accomplish in Alaska is he needs, and this is principal thing, he needs Trump to at least blame partially the continuing of the war on Zelensky. Right now, Trump blames Putin primarily for keeping the war going. And Trump doesn't want to do that, but Putin's kind of put him in a position where he has nowhere else to go. Ukraine has accepted everything Trump has basically demanded. They've accepted a ceasefire with no preconditions. They've accepted a critical minerals deal. They've been very deferential to Trump directly. So Putin needs to find a way to convince Trump that actually, no, he's interested in having a peace negotiation, but it's those obstreperous Ukrainians that are not. And that does mean putting something on the table, saying that maybe they'd have some kind of a territorial swap. Maybe they'd be willing to end the fighting if the Ukrainians will accept some demilitarization, other things that Ukrainians will not accept, but put the Ukrainians in the position of saying no. Russia's not interested in getting to yes, but they have to feign it more effectively than they have heretofore. That is what I think Putin is all about. Now, Trump does not think that there's going to be a lot of success in this meeting. That's certainly been what I've been hearing from the White House, that they're coming into this meeting with low expectations, but the belief that they can use these negotiations to push both Putin and Zelensky to offer more in the service of negotiations than they've been willing to thus far. And I mean, certainly compare this to Biden. Biden never would have gone into a meeting like this unless he had a much better sense of what the outcome was going to be. Trump doesn't know what the outcome is going to be, but Trump is comfortable with that. Trump is perfectly happy to be seen doing everything possible in the service of getting to a negotiated settlement, even if there's a high chance it's not going to work. And look, I mean, he tried that with Kim Jong-un in his first term. It didn't go anywhere, but he offered him the meetings, even though there was nothing really in return in advance of those meetings being set up. So in that regard, very unusual, even unprecedented, but not necessarily incorrect. So I don't have a problem with the fact that Trump is meeting with Putin. It all depends on what comes out of the meeting and how it's portrayed. One other thing I would mention, though, this is why I think Putin's made a mistake, is that today the Europeans are much stronger. They're more coordinated in their Ukraine support and in their defensive capabilities and willingness to put more on the table than they were at the beginning of Trump's second term. And Putin allowed that to happen. Putin not just got Trump more coordinated with the Europeans, but he also strengthened the European position, so much so that the Ukrainians have the ability to say no, at least in the near to medium term, and keep fighting, even if the United States is not providing direct support, because the military support they are getting from the Europeans is now greater than what they're getting from the United States. And that is leverage. And frankly, that is a move away in a small way, an incremental way, from the GZERO world that I've been talking about for over 10 years now. This idea that if the Americans are unwilling to provide leadership, that nobody else is willing and capable. Well, that has been true in so many areas, but on Ukraine, increasingly the Europeans are willing and capable of displaying leadership. Is it enough for the long term to really make a difference? Probably not. But in the near term, it gets them a seat at the table. It allows them not just to make a joint statement, but to insert themselves where Trump has to talk to them before the meeting if he wants this to go to a useful place, where the Europeans will play a more significant role in coordinating the Ukrainian negotiating position than the Americans will. And that wasn't true 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ago, either with Trump or with Biden. In that regard, it's pretty interesting. So that's what we're looking to see. We'll be talking about this a lot, I'm sure, over the coming days. It's fascinating to see Trump meet with the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, and with very different sets of incentives. And as a consequence, likely not a hugely productive meeting, but the possibility, once again, of moving the ball. And if that were done in the service to ending a very brutal and bloody war over the last 3 years, that's something that most people would like to see, by the way, including a large majority of Ukrainians at this point. That's it for me, and I'll talk to you all real soon.